Hello and welcome everyone on the Information Technology and Service Management PCB webinars. My name is Vlera Orshala, the PCB organizer of this webinar, and today's topic is data processing and business continuity in 2040. This webinar will be presented by Mr. Sidney Modenesi, Chief Technical Officer at the Digital and PCB partner and has more than 20 years of experience. Please, if you have questions during the webinar or any comments, you can write them in the question box, or you can raise your hand, and Mr. Modenesi will answer to them in the end of the presentation accordingly. Please, Mr. Sidney, you may start the presentation.
Thank you very much, Vlar. Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It is a pleasure to be presenting another webinar for PECB. And a little bit about myself. You can find me in the social medias. I have close to 40 years experience in IT and almost 30 years experience in business continuity and disaster recovery. So in today's webinar, I will share with you, based on the experience I've been through over all these years, what I foresee the changes that will happen in data processing and consequently in business continuity and for business continuity practitioners in the future. So looking back 25 years, I'm projecting the next 25 years, which is 2040. Well, if it's so far away, why should I bother with what will happen in 25 years down the road? Well, the reason is pretty simple. The change will not happen suddenly in 2040. Changes are happening every day. Changes are happening daily in every situation, and we have to be prepared as a business continuity practitioner. We have to be prepared to follow and anticipate, mainly being proactively reacting to all the changes we foresee for the future. Let's go back a little bit, 25 years back in early 90s, and see a quick picture of the world. Well, society, first of all, the baby boomers were in command. They were in the fixed and stable positions. Career for them was a long-term effort. Baby boomers were the generation born after the war, and so success in their professional life and consequently in the private life was very important for them, but not as in a fast way, basically in a long-term way. At the same time, of course, living together many generations at the same time, we have Generation X, reaching the middle management positions, some maybe, of course, in top management. And this generation was very familiar with technology. They were born during the technology age, but they were still a little bit resistant with the changes. Success for their career, it was a medium-term issue. Compared against the baby boomers, that was a long-term objective. And then we had the Generation Y, teenagers at that time, looking for their first formal job, entering the labor market. This generation is able to do many things at the same time. So if you have kids, of course you have noticed that they are able to listen to music, answer emails, surf the internet. But this generation, rather than the other ones, success for them is in a short term. Well, business. Business was in the old-fashioned way. Employees working at the office, normal working hours, 8:30 till 5:30, depending upon the lunch duration. Standard stuff. People with ties, suits, maybe. .com bubble it only happened at the very end of the 90s, in 97 until 2000 was the peak period. So there was no really internet at that time in the early 90s. Whoops, excuse me. Technology. Windows 3.0 has been released on May 22nd. So before that, people were using with the green screen and text windows. There was no browser, the internet browser, Mosaic, I think it was the first one, has been released back in 93. Consequently, there was no social medias. I think not even ICQ was available at that time. In technology terms, companies were moving to client-server applications, and there was really a huge effort in worldwide, sort of a fever in the mainframe downsizing, because mainframes were too expensive to buy, to run, to set up, infrastructure, and RISC processing and Intel processing was very cheap and offering more flexibility and faster delivering, application delivery. Disaster recovery and business continuity. Really very few organizations, mainly the large ones, very large ones, had disaster recovery alternate locations or sites, mainly focusing on recovering the data processing center or strategic warehouses. Main focus at that time was to protect against natural disasters like hurricanes, earthquakes, tsunamis. Also Cold War was an issue at that time, another war or biological wars. So there was a requirement from the Fed, the central bank in the US, that the recovery site should be at least 50 miles from the primary location. And also at that time, there was no, of course, standards for business continuity. Major hardware providers and the big five consulting companies or auditing companies at that time had their own disaster recovery methodology. On the left-hand side, you have a picture of an old IBM 3380 storage device able to store 20 gigabytes of data, still that was still in use in the early 90s. His weight, his price compared against micro SD card, today's micro SD card. If you are interested in learning more about the history of the standards and how they evolved over the years, there's a previous PECB webinar where this history is addressed. Well, with this picture in mind, society, technology, business continuity, let's project what will happen in the world in 2040. My view, of course. Well, society, first of all. Well, baby boomers will be retired by that time. Maybe there are some, one or two around, but the majority will be retired, leaving top management or decision positions to Generation X. Generation Y, the following generation, will be entering by that time top decision or top management positions. And of course, the following generation, Z, W, whatever the name they will have in the future, will be entering the market, the working market. But as today, they have a pretty clear difference compared against the baby boomers and Generation X. Their priority is life quality rather than a successful career. So if they have to make a decision about working hard, for example, for a successful career which will compromise with life quality, most likely they will choose life quality. Business, well, more and more I can't say percentage, but I would say at least 99% of the transactions worldwide will be real-time online, mainly through collective or group buying through social medias. Less utilization of money bills. There are countries, as today, already using very small number of bills, mainly electronic money or electronic transactions. So having all this facility, business will be done anytime, anywhere, which will add a huge pressure on costs or inefficiency for organizations or companies to be profitable. The same way, employees or collaborators or third-party force or workforce will be working anytime, anywhere, which means that labor relationships will have to change. Working hours, payment, retirement, regulations, laws, all these things will have to change to accommodate with all these changes. Overall, efficiency will be mandatory for the continuity of the organizations, continuity of the companies, will not be a requirement anymore. You have to be efficient to be in the market, to keep on business. Technology, on the other hand, will make all these changes possible. Let's step a little bit. Organizations do not do business with organizations. People do business with people through organizations. And as a support, as a backend on all this business, we have technology. Technology is driving, is accelerating all these changes and making all these changes possible. Having information real-time, online, anytime, anywhere will be a difference, a very important differential for your company. Again, it will be a requirement, it will be mandatory, not a requirement anymore. If your competitor has his information anytime, anywhere, and your company doesn't, you're losing money, you're losing profit, you're losing competitivity in the market, you're not being effective, which means your continuity is at risk. With all this data, all this pressure on data, transmission will be under pressure as well. Data transmission will be under pressure as well. So links or mobile connectivity has to improve dramatically to accommodate all this data transmission between all these devices. Talking about devices, they will be born with IoT on its DNA. Devices will be designed and developed to be connected to the internet, which will add an extra pressure on data transferring. Some studies say that these devices can send up to 1 gigabyte of data per minute, which is quite a lot of information. Internet, I don't think will be 25 years from now the same way it is today. The basics, the principle may be the same, but technology will have to be faster and faster to accommodate all this data transferring. Big data as today, we have further versions. I'm calling version N. I have no idea which version will be by that time. And we'll have capacity to process in almost real time petabytes of data to drive the business, to help the business to be every day more efficient. So at the back end, we'll have massive data processing and storage capacity to accommodate all this data. Companies will replace their corporate data centers by non-stop cloud processing. Internal data center will be cost. Companies will focus on their end business and not in peripheral activities like supporting and maintaining a data center. So disaster recovery, as we have today, we replace it by clauses in the cloud agreement, setting up the SLAs and availability and things like that. Storage capacity by that time will be varying from zetabytes of data to yottabytes of data, which is an unimaginable number of zeros of data. A little bit back in my background, in 95, 96, I was a data center manager in a very large credit card operation here in Brazil. And at that time, we were processing something like maybe 120 transactions per second. Mainframe data center, at that time, we didn't have 1 terabyte of data to process all that stuff. Now, any device, any workstation, or even a laptop has more than that. So data storage is increasing faster and faster. But we are not going to get rid of legacy systems. They will still be around, and the cloud processing will have to integrate or connect or work cooperatively with the old legacy systems we still have around. And almost every new device that we add on our network will be a potential internet terminal, which means that we will have by them billions of them, billions. As today, I'm not sure if it's in 2016 or 17, we will have more people worldwide with mobile phones than with electricity power or even water in their house. So technology really is pushing all these efforts up. Then in disaster recovery business continuity, as I mentioned before, conventional data center DRP will replace it by cloud processing SLA, where we're going to set up, define with the vendor what we have today as we call the MTPD and the MBCO, what will be the availability time or disruptive time, or the service level we're going to deliver in the event of a disruptive interruption. And this availability will be a responsibility of the cloud provider that will be set during the negotiation and setting up the agreement between the organization and the provider. And also, alternative recovery facilities will not be needed anymore, or will not be needed at the same level as it is needed today, because collaborators will be spread around. They're not concentrated in a single location or a main office location. So if people are working in spread out, so why should I bother with a recovery facility? Unless, of course, you're talking a large area disaster like a major earthquake or biological war, unfortunately. And also in the disaster recovery and business continuity, disruptive incident will not be acceptable anymore. We can't think about in running a business, having a disruptive incident, and then starting to recover the business, and I predefining the MTPD and predefining the MBCO. The whole organization, the structure of the company, the way the company is will be set up by in 25 years from now, will be a resilient structure. People in different locations, people connected through different ways, with the services being provided in different places. So the whole structure of the company, the organization, will be a resilient structure. So resiliency will have to be part of the operational structure of the organization. And with the companies outsourcing everything that is not vital for the business, the supply chain will be an issue. Inbound supply chain to will be vital to keep the business running. So we'll have business continuity. We have to keep a very close eye on the supply chain. A failure in a provider will be perceived by your customer at the other end as a failure in your operation, and your customer will demand this availability from you. We are reaching the end. I will leave a few minutes at the end for some questions and hopefully a few answers for you. Future standard, ISO 22301, which is already an evolution of BS 25309, will have to change. We'll have to change because we cannot think, as I mentioned before, we cannot think about a disruptive incident anymore. We'll have to think about resilience, as most parts, vital parts of the organization will be very well spread out. We already have, if I'm not wrong, there is a British standard for resilience. First version, how the standards will merge, if they merge, it's still very down the road, but for sure ISO 22301, 2213 will have to change to accommodate resilience as part of the business continuity process. BIA risk assessment will have to be conducted by product, services, or processes, which is already addressed in ISO 22301, instead of by physical location. The reason is pretty simple. Physical location will have no more meaning for the business because people will be working and doing business in many different locations. So if there will be no single point of failure in that sense. The profession and the practitioners will have to improve their skills. More and more business continuity practitioners will have to understand the business of the organization and also to work cooperatively with the risk, the corporate risk department to understand the corporate risks include supply chain. Understand where we have a single point of failure or where we have a single path of failure, as things will be distributed in many places, in many vendors, in many locations. We may not have a single point of failure, but we may have a single path of failure. So we will have to understand that. Of course, we will have to understand the resilience. We will have to know very well the principles of the business continuity and disaster recovery, whatever it will be in the future. We will have to understand ICT, as ICT will drive all these changes that will happen. And finally, as I mentioned many times before, efficiency will be a key issue. So we will have to understand the financial aspects of investments and operational expenses to provide the organization, to help the organizations to decide if this strategy is better than the other one, which one provided best return with the lowest investment, with the lowest cost. Okay, we still have a few minutes for questions and answers. Now I will handle the word back to Vlar.
Thank you very much, Mr. Modenesi, for this great presentations. Now it's time for a question. I have one question for you, and this about cloud storage. One of attendees has asked, is the cloud storage really reliable and secure, and how we can know that our data are not misused?
Okay, good question. secure, never, my view, never will have 100% security. Whatever, information security, physical security, whatever kind of security you are thinking about, will never will be 100% sure that you are not running any sort of risk. I would ask you, instead of considering the risk of storing your information in the cloud, what is the risk of storing your information in your own data center today? When we talk about large cloud processing, it will be a professional data processing with very high level of security in place. Mostly we'll have certifications available compared against your own data center. That most likely is not your final activity. So I would say betting which is more secure. I would say cloud processing or cloud storage will be more secure than your own data storage.
Thank you very much. And another question is, what are the common mistakes that companies make in business continuity and data processing, and how we can avoid them?
Well, pretty broad question. What I have seen, in my view, of course, has a very heavy background with the Brazilian culture and South America culture, although I have done a few assignments for American companies and for European companies. But what I saw most is IT starting projects, GRP projects, in building the recovery data center without asking the business what is important for the business. So basically what I'm saying is that ICT is not conducting a BIA. So they define that, well, I think this application is more important than the other one. I think this service level has to be 75%. The RTO for this application, I think 2 hours is good for the business, without asking these questions for the business, which basically is BIA. When this organization moves to a more mature level and does the BIA, the organization realizes that the requirements from BIA do not match the infrastructure set up in the ERP. Then we have major gaps that very usually are very costly to fix, and most of the times will cost the head of the CIO. So this is so if you're doing it for the first time, I would strongly recommend to conduct the BIA. If you have the chance, do a strategic BIA first. Strategic BIA is not addressed in ISO 22301. It is addressed in the BCI Business Continuity Institute, the Best Practices Guideline. Basically, it's a BIA done with the C-level of the organization. You have the chance to talk with them, very few questions. You have to be very objective and extract the most of information you can in, let's say, 1 hour. But then you have a pretty good view of what is important for the business. And then you can narrow down either to DRP or then to a standard BIA at the management level of the organization. I hope I have answered the question.
Thank you very much, Mr. Modenesi, for presentation and for answering the questions. I want to thank all attendees as well for taking the time out of your busy schedules and join us. We hope you enjoyed this webinar, and you can see the presentation slides and watch this session recorded in our website www.pcb.com. In the end, I want to inform all of you that next Monday we are hosting another webinar titled How Business Top Management Sees ITSM Implementation Projects. Thank you very much, and bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.